All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama-shloke Bhaktir-bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, I'm supposed to share the screen. Okay, okay. Hare Krishna Mataji. Right, 1 second. I'll share the screen. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 13. Okay. Is the font big enough? You want me to make it bigger, Mataji? Vindhyavali Mataji, is it okay? It's okay. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1. The first step in God realization. Text 13. Khatvango nama rajarshir yatve yattam ihayushaha muhurtat sarvamutsrijya gatavan abhayam harim. Khatvango nama rajarshir yatve yattam ihayushaha muhurtat sarvamutsrijya gatavan abhayam harim. Khatvango nama rajarshir gyatve yattam ihayushaha muhurtat sarvamutsrijya gatavan abhayam harim. Please chant.
Katvango Nama Rajarshir Jatve Yattam Yayushaha Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya Gatvan Abhayam Harim. Hare Krishna.
Kathango nama rajarshir yatam
Gyatve yattam
yatam ihayasa muhurtat sarvam utsitya gatavan abhayam harim.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam.
Khatvango Nam Rajarshi Natve Yattam Ihayushaha Muhurtat Sarva Mutrujya Gatavan Abhayam Harim. Hare Krishna.
Suman Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Khatvango nama rajarshi gyatve yattam ihayusaha muhurtat sarvam utsrijya
Gatvan abhyam harim.
Okay.
Khatwango nam rajarse gyatve tam iha yusaha muhurtat sarvamutsrijya gatavan avayam harim. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Word to word translation. Khatvangaha, King Khatvanga. Nama, name. Rajarishihi, saintly king. Gyatva, by knowing. Iyattam, duration. Iha, in this world. Ayushaha, of one's life. Muhurtat, with only a moment. Sarvam, everything. Utsrijya, leaving aside. Gatavan, had undergone. Abhayam, fully safe. Harim, the personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The saintly King Khatwanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. The saintly King Khatwanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. Purport. A fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. Human life is meant for preparing ourselves for that prime duty. Maharaj Khatwanga is mentioned herein as a saintly king because even within the responsibility of the state management, he was not at all forgetful of the prime duty of life. Such was the case with other Rajarshis, saintly kings, like Maharaj Yudhishthir and Maharaj Parikshit. They were all exemplary personalities on account of their being alert in discharging their prime duty. Maharaj Khatwanga was invited by the demigods in the higher planets to fight demons. Maharaj Khatwanga was invited by the demigods in the higher planets to fight demons. And as a king, he fought the battles to the full satisfaction of the demigods. The demigods, being fully satisfied with him, wanted to give him some benediction for material enjoyment. But Maharaj Khatwanga, being very much alert to his prime duty, inquired from the demigods about his remaining duration of life. This means that he was not as anxious to accumulate some material benediction from the demigods as he was to prepare himself for the next life. He was informed by the demigods, however, that his life would last only a moment longer. The king at once left the heavenly kingdom, which is always full of material enjoyment of the highest standard, and coming down to this earth, took ultimate shelter of the all-safe personality of Godhead. He was successful in his great attempt and achieved liberation. This attempt, even for a moment, by the saintly king was successful because he was always alert to his prime duty. Maharaj Parikshit was thus encouraged by the great Sukadev Goswami, even though he had only 7 days left in his life, to execute the prime duty of hearing the glories of the Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Parikshit was thus encouraged by the great Sukadev Goswami, even though he had only 7 days left in his life, to execute the prime duty of hearing the glories of the Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. By the will of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit instantly met the great Sukadev Goswami, and the great treasure of spiritual success left by him is nicely mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you for joining this morning. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 1, the first step in God realization. So Parikshit Maharaj had asked 4 questions, 4 or 5 questions. What should a person hear? What should a person chant? What should he remember? What should he do? And what should he worship? And then what should he not hear? What should he not chant? What should he not remember? What should he not do? And what should he not worship? So in answer to that, Sukadev Goswami first answered what he should not hear, what he should not chant, what he should not remember, so on and so forth. So talking about Grihamedis, how their lives are wasted simply in sleeping and sex at night, and the daytime is spent in maintaining the families, working hard, earning money, and maintaining the families. And they have no taste in hearing they have no interest, they have no time to think about their self-interest. Then Sukadev Goswami said, what should be done? You should always, the perfection of all your activity, whatever activity you do, the perfection of all your activity is what? Is to please, is to remember the Lord at the time of death. Whatever activity you do in this life, if that leads to the remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the time of death, then that activity is perfect. So then, of course, Sukadev Goswami first congratulated Parikshit Maharaj for his excellent question, because the answer to this question is actually the subject matter which is to be heard by everyone. So then he said, I heard this Srimad Bhagavatam from my father, and to answer your question, I'm just going to repeat what I have heard from my father. The same Srimad Bhagavatam I'm going to repeat to you. So we heard the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the past 2 or 3 verses. Let's see. In text 10. That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So, what is our goal now? Our goal is to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. So, then what should we do? What should we do so that we can remember the Lord at the time of death? So, Sukadev Goswami is saying, you hear Srimad Bhagavatam. What happens when you give full attention to Srimad Bhagavatam? When one gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of liberation. And also, in addition to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, in text 11, Sukadev Goswami is saying, O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all. So always, continuously, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushīlanam. Right, that the word anushilanam. Shilanam is activity. What activity? With your body, mind, or words. You're doing activity. What type of activity? Krishnanushilanam. You're doing activities in the service of the Lord, connected to Krishna. But anu means continuous. So that activity that you're doing, it has to be done continuously. Krishnanushilanam. So here Sukadev Goswami is saying, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all. All, including those who are free from material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. For everyone. Just like akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether you are full of desires or whether you are free from desires or you're desiring liberation, under all circumstances, tivra bhakti is the only way to get your desired result and more. So, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord will give the desired result. Then yesterday's verse, text 12, because Parikshit Maharaj, he has only 7 days. What can I achieve in 7 days? It's a lifetime's preparation to become Krishna conscious. In 7 days, he may feel disheartened. What can I do in 7 days? Now Sukadev Goswami is saying, what is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? In Hindi, there's a saying. It says, बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ जैसे पेड़ खजूर पंथी को छाया नहीं फल लागे अति दूर. That means you're a big person. So what is the use of being a big person? Or you can even say, what is the use of having a big, long life? The palm tree, it is so tall. It is so tall. So it may be feeling great, right? I'm so tall. But what is the use of such a tall tree? You don't receive the shade of that tree, nor do the travelers get the fruit because it is so high they can't reach. So what is the use of being so tall? So similarly, Srila Prabhupada also says, you have the life of a tree. A tree lives for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years. What is the use of such a long life, prolonged life? Is that a great achievement? Living a long life, but what is the value of that life? There is no experience. Experience of what? No experience of God consciousness. Instead of such a long life, better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in search after his supreme interest. So never mind whatever has happened so far in our lives, we have not been serious or whatever. You can change things around even in one moment. So Sukadev Goswami is giving great hope to Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit, you have 7 days. 7 days. Each day has 24 hours. Each hour has 60 minutes. 60 minutes have, each minute has 60 seconds. And you can even divide it further. The smallest fraction of time, right? One moment that can change your life. Because even one moment of full consciousness gives you a start to your search for the Supreme. So, in the end of that purport yesterday, Srila Prabhupada says that one should therefore utilize one's life in glorifying the Lord by all means without any offense. So importance was given to offense. So without any offense, we should use every minute that we have in our lives for glorifying the Supreme Lord. Such activity of life, the quality, always it's about the quality, isn't it? Whatever service we do, even the rounds that we chant, or whatever service that we do, of course, quantity matters. But if there is no quality in that quantity, then it is not really of much value. But if there is high quality, even if it is of small quantity, then it's of great value. So, such activity of life, such activity means glorifying the Supreme Lord without any offense. Glorifying the Supreme Lord without any offense. Such activity, even for a moment, is never to be compared to a prolonged life of ignorance. You have a very long life where you have not done any activity which is of quality. You have not glorified the Lord without offenses. What is the use of such a long life? I'm so experienced. I'm such a senior person, but I have not done even a little bit of glorification of the Lord without an offense. What is the use of such a long life? But if you have actually used your time to glorify the Supreme Lord without an offense, then even one moment spent in such activity cannot be compared to a very long life of ignorance. And Prabhupada gives the example of a tree and also other living entities that have a lifespan of thousands of years, but there is no spiritual advancement. So that leads to today's verse, in which Sukadeva Goswami is not just saying this in theory, he's actually giving examples. So he's saying the saintly king Khatwanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. So Khatwanga Maharaj was a great Rajarshi, saintly king. What does it mean? Rajarshi means what? You have Rajas, you have Kshatriyas who are kings. But amongst the kings, a Rajarshi is one who is always conscious of the prime duty of life. He is not carried away by his present position of a Kshatriya or of a ruler, a protector, the Lord. So he doesn't get carried away, even though he's doing that duty. At every moment, he's conscious of the prime duty of life. What is the prime duty of human life? That was already said by Sukadeva Goswami. The prime duty of human life is to glorify the Supreme Lord without an offense. Really, that is the duty. Because only that is of any substantial value in this life. Everything else that we do is temporary. You get a result for that, and then that result is finished. You enjoy that result or you suffer that result, and it's finished. That activity is over. But any activity which is done in the glorification of the Supreme Lord, in the service of the Supreme Lord, is eternal activity. And such activity leads to the remembrance of the Supreme Lord at the time of death. Srila Prabhupada often quotes, Bhajan karo, sadhan karo, marte jaan le hoy. Whatever bhajan and sadhan you have done in this life will be tested at the time of death. What is that test? If I'm able to remember Krishna at the time of death. So, this Khatwanga Muni was, Khatwanga Maharaj was a great Rajarshi. Once he was invited by the demigods in the heavenly planets. So you can also understand he was a Rajarshi, he was a devotee, but also he was a very responsible king on this earth. So much so that the demigods counted on him to fight their enemies, the demons. You know, the demigods are far superior to us, but there have been such exalted personalities in the human community. There have been such exalted kings on this earth on whom the demigods depended. We have a few examples. Arjun. Arjun went to heaven in his human body. Generally, people cannot go to heavens in their human body. Arjun went there. And he received all the celestial weapons from Lord Indra. And then Lord Indra asked him to fight those enemies, the Kala Kanyas and the Nivata Kavachas, whom Indra could not defeat. They were so formidable, they lived at the depths of the ocean, these demons, whom Indra could not defeat himself. He said, I want you to go and fight them. And Arjun went and fought and defeated them and came back. Another example is Dasharath Maharaj. Dasharath Maharaj, his name Dasharath is because he was so valiant in battle that his enemies, in whichever direction they saw, they would see Dasharath Maharaj. They would see his chariot coming. That means it appeared that he was coming from the 10 directions. There are 8 directions, and then up and below, up and down. So they could see him coming from all directions. It appeared that his chariot was coming from all directions. So the enemy would be terrified. So Dasharath Maharaj would also be invited by the demigods to fight their enemies. So similarly here, Khatwanga Muni Maharaj was also invited by the demigods to fight the demons. And Khatwanga Maharaj was very proficient. He defeated all the demons. The demigods were very happy and they said, please, we want to give you some benediction. What can the demigods give? Can the demigods give liberation? No, they cannot give liberation. The demigods are like rich people, right? Wealthy people in this world. When you go to a wealthy person, what can he give you if he's pleased with you? He'll give you some wealth. He'll give you some opulence, some enjoyment. So similarly, the demigods offered in exchange for what Khatwanga Muni did for them, they wanted to give him something in return. So they said, we want to give you some benediction. What would you like? So here Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport, Khatwanga Maharaj was not as interested in the material benedictions that the demigods could have offered as he was interested in the prime duty of life. That means, even though he was carrying out his duties in this world, not for a moment was he separated from that goal. His goal was always that prime duty of life. What is that prime duty of life? Every moment of my life must be used in the service of the Supreme Lord. Every moment of my life must be used in the service of the Lord. So how much time do I have left in this life? So Khatwanga Maharaj asked them, what do you want in exchange? What can we give you? We are very pleased with you. What can we give you? Oh, you are demigods, So you have this vision, right? You can see past, present, and future. Can you tell me how much more time I have to live in this world? So the demigod said, unfortunately, Khatwanga Maharaj, you have only one moment left. He didn't say anything. He just left instantly. He left that place and he came to the earth planet. That's also interesting. He could have done his tapasya in Swarga itself. Why did he even come down to the earth planet? You see, Swarga is a place for sense gratification. And Srila Prabhupada says that in the purport, it is filled with opulences. So, let me see. Yeah, the king at once left the heavenly kingdom, which is always full of material enjoyment of the highest standard. Therefore, actually, bhakti is not dependent on anything. If you are a pure devotee, if you are doing pure devotional service means Anyabhilashita shunyam, jnana karmadhyanavritam, anukulyana krishnanushilanam. This is pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam means you don't have any desire save and except pleasing Krishna. Jnana karmadhyanavritam means you don't take shelter of any type of jnana or karma. Your bhakti, pure devotional service does not get interrupted by any jnana or karma. Anukulyena, in a favorable mood. Krishnanushilanam, you're rendering devotional service such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Pada Sevanam, like that. You continuously are doing this. This is pure unalloyed devotional service. So this pure devotional service is not dependent on any other conditions. It is completely independent. But I can take help if it's like, the sun is always giving light. Sun is always giving light. But like today, it's cloudy outside. I don't see the sun. Now, can I say there is no light today because the sun has become weak? The sun is not so powerful. It's not able to give so much light anymore. No. Or can I say, oh, the clouds are more powerful than the sun. They are able to block the sun. No. The clouds can block my vision. They cannot block the sun. So similarly, pure devotional service is like the sun. Pure devotional service is self-sufficient. But because of my position, my position means I don't have that faith in bhakti. That's all. It just boils down to I don't have full faith in bhakti. Because I don't have full faith in bhakti, therefore I take shelter of some jnana, some karma. But my goal is still to do pure devotional service. So sometimes this is called Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Sangha Siddha Bhakti means you make either karma or jnana assistant to bhakti, to assist bhakti, right? So you need a proper place, you need a favorable atmosphere, and in that situation, you are able to do bhakti properly. But just because it works well for you, a certain place where you sit and chant or a certain time that you do. So can you say, oh, bhakti is dependent on those conditions? Bhakti is not dependent. But because I don't have full faith yet, therefore I take shelter of these other things. Okay. So Khatwanga Muni, he didn't start right in the heavenly planets. Rather, he immediately came down to the earth. Why did he come down to the earth? As soon as he heard that he had only one moment left, he just came down to the earth. And coming down, he took shelter of the all-safe personality of Godhead. He took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he got success. In that one moment, he was able to get liberation, right? One moment, like the moment of death, right? In one moment, he was able to completely focus on the Supreme Lord and he was able to get liberation, success. Now you may say, Oh, that's wonderful. We'll also do that, right? At the last moment of my life, I'll just remember Krishna, and then my life will become successful. Oh, I don't have to work all year, throughout my life. Just in the last one moment, I'll remember Krishna. My life will become successful, right? No, we cannot trick Krishna like that. Why Khatvanga Muni was able to remember that? Prabhupada says that also. This attempt, even for a moment, right, was successful. The attempt that he made, and it was only made for one moment, and still he got success. How he got that? Because he was always alert of his prime duty. So, what is that? I keep forgetting all this all the time. 8th chapter, 7th. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha mayarpita manobuddhir mame vaishyasi asamshayaha. This is Krishna's instruction. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. So our endeavor should be to remember the duty, the prime duty of this human form of life at every moment in our life. Sarveshu kaleshu. Sarveshu kaleshu. At all times. Every moment. So that should be our cultivation. Present situation is at a certain time of the day I will remember, and the rest of the time I forget. But that time that I'm remembering the Lord, or I'm making an endeavor to even remember the Lord, has to be increased. Instead of just 2 hours, or maybe even those 2 hours, I don't know if that is very focused and continuous, right? But to remember this at all times, if somebody is able to do this, then he doesn't have to worry whether at the time of death I will remember the Lord or not. You will remember the Lord because you have done that throughout your life. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. You do your duty, no problem. But you remember the Lord at every time. And don't forget what is your main duty in life. The very first line, or actually the second line of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. And we always fall in this trap, don't we? Trying to meet the needs, necessities of material life. That comes first. After that is taken care of, then I will sit and I will do my bhajan. Isn't it? And sometimes that takes up so much time that we don't even have time to do our bhajan. Then that is not a Rajarshi. Khatvanga Maharaj was not like that. It doesn't mean that he didn't do his duties. He did his duty very well. That's why he was invited by the demigods. But he never forgot what is the prime duty of human form of life. So what is happening here? Why Sukadev Goswami even spoke this, gave this example? The intention of Sukadev Goswami is to encourage Parikshit Maharaj. Don't be disheartened that you have only 7 days. 7 days is a lot, my dear Parikshit. 7 days is a lot. Even one moment is sufficient. Like that. And Parikshit Maharaj, how did he hear? How did Parikshit Maharaj hear from Sukadev Goswami? We are reading in another class, we are reading from the 10th canto, first chapter. So there, Parikshit Maharaj says he's worried, he's concerned that Sukadev Goswami may not stop speaking. He spoke 9 cantos so far, and now he may be thinking that, oh, Parikshit Maharaj said, please tell me about so far you have spoken up to 9 cantos. Sukadev Goswami had spoken, especially in the 9th canto, Sukadev Goswami had spoken about the Surya Vamsa and the Chandra Vamsa. That means the Sun dynasty and Moon dynasty, all the kings. The Sun dynasty ended with the description of Lord Ramchandra, and the Moon dynasty ended with the description of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna was discussed in just 2 verses, 2 shlokas about Lord Krishna. So then this brings us to the beginning of the 10th canto. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, my dear Sukadev Goswami, you spoke nicely about the moon dynasty and the sun dynasty. So I want to hear Krishna Leela. Please tell me Krishna Leela. You tell me a portion of Krishna Leela, right? I'm not asking you to tell the entire Krishna Leela because it is not possible. It's not possible for any speaker to speak entire Krishna Leela, nor is it possible for the listener to hear entire Krishna Leela, because Krishna Leela is limitless. Who can speak everything and who can hear everything? Where do we have that much time in this life? So it's not possible. So I'm not asking you to tell everything, but please tell me a portion. So then Sukadev Goswami might say, but I already told you a portion at the end of 9th canto. In 2 verses I gave you Krishna Leela. So then Parikshit Maharaj is saying, yes. Whatever you have said, those 2 verses, people like me are foolish. If you say in such a succinct way, we cannot grasp the whole meaning. Whatever you said, the same thing, now you elaborate on that. You use more words and explain the same thing elaborately for less intelligent people like me and all the sages sitting here in this assembly. We are not like you. We are less intelligent. So for our sake, please elaborate like that. And then he gives several reasons why he wants to hear Krishna Leela. Why he is asking Sukadev Goswami to speak Krishna Leela elaborately. Elaborately means same thing. Whatever he said, just elaborate on that. And then he also gets this fear that Sukadev Goswami may think, Parikshit, after he hasn't eaten or he hasn't drunk any water for so many days. I already spoke 9 cantos, and now he must be tired, exhausted. Because of this hunger and thirst only, being unable to tolerate this hunger and thirst, being frustrated, he put that snake, dead snake, on that Brahmana. That means he cannot tolerate hunger and thirst. And all these days listening to Bhagavatam, he didn't eat or drink anything. I must give a break so that he'll rest a little bit and then I can begin. Because he's asking me to speak more now. So if I start speaking, it will go even longer. So let me give him a break. Parikshit is thinking like this in his mind. Sukadev Goswami may be thinking like this of me. So he wants to express to Sukadev Goswami, no, it's not like that. Don't think that I am tired and I'm not, I want you to, or I'm suffering. I'm feeling the pain of hunger. Don't think like that. This Krishna Katha coming from your lotus mouth, my dear Gurudev, this Krishna Katha coming from your lotus mouth, it is so sweet. It is so nectarian. Kathamritam. Kathamritam means this katha is like nectar. And mukhambojam means it's coming from your lotus mouth. What comes from lotus mouth? Nectar. Lotus. Flowers give nectar, right? That's why honeys go to collect that nectar. So from your lotus like mouth, the katha that is coming, it is already nectarian because it is Krishna katha. But when it is spoken from your mouth, it becomes doubly sweet. And when you take too much nectar, what happens? When you take too much nectar, you go mad, you become intoxicated. Too much honey. That's what the honeybees, they take too much honey and they just go crazy. They go mad because of that intoxication of honey. So this nectar which is coming from your mouth, I'm hankering for that. If you stop giving this nectar, then I will actually die. I will die because of not getting this Krishna Katha. I won't die because of hunger, or because of suffering from the pain of hunger. And also this Krishna Katha is making me forget everything. Actually getting cursed by this Brahmana is very painful. But I don't feel that pain anymore. And I'm not feeling the pangs of hunger and thirst hearing this Krishna Katha. So this shows us how absorbed Parikshit Maharaj is in hearing this Krishna Katha. So here in this verse, we saw that Sukadev Goswami is encouraging Parikshit Maharaj, don't worry, 7 days. Why 7 days? One moment is sufficient. So we should all take courage. It's okay. Whatever has been done has been done. But whatever capacity we have, everyone has different capacities. We are all at different levels. But with our capacity, let us try. And what is that endeavor? Glorify Krishna in whatever capacity we are able to. Let us put all our energy in that. So that is what Sukadev Goswami is teaching Parikshit Maharaj, and through him he is teaching all of us that even one moment is sufficient. Don't underestimate, right? Whatever little time we may have, use it in Krishna's service. Even Srila Prabhupada said that one moment is sufficient. Once chanting Hare Krishna is sufficient, right? In 1 minute you can become Krishna conscious. Why in one lifetime? In 1 minute you can become Krishna conscious. Provided, so you have to take into account all the background, right? The last 2 verses were talking about offenses. That is the thing. We have to do this without offenses. When we do it with offenses, then we are blocking, choking our own progress. But if we do it without offenses, it's like burning firewood, dry firewood. But if we have offenses, then it's like trying to light a wet firewood. So much smoke will come first before it actually lights up. So smoke means it's burning all that wetness, that moisture. After all that moisture is finished, then it will actually catch on fire. So when we have so many offenses, even though we are chanting, even though we are doing devotional service, apparently we are not seeing the result. But it's not that the result is not happening. The offenses are getting removed gradually. Now on top of that, if we add more offenses, what can we expect? When will you see the fire? Right? So at least whatever offenses we have piled up, they're already there. By chanting, those offenses are taken care of. But we should not at least add more water on that firewood. If we really want to see fire, don't add more offenses. And the holy name is supremely powerful because the holy name is non-different from the supreme personality of Godhead. So by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by glorifying the supreme personality of Godhead, there is a certain success for everyone. I will end there. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji,
Yes, Mataji.
wonderful class. And it gave me nice hope and answer, because in another class, I was in second canto, and then the chapter 5, that Mahatattva and other things, I gave up my hands. I told that Prabhu, he says, okay, after you read the purport, you just explain to me. I said, Prabhu, that's it. I'm blank. I am not going further. That only until these 2 or 3 chapters, I was doing nicely. But after I'm reading, I'm explaining. These 2 chapters I gave up. I told him, I'm not able to go further. Prabhu, what can I do? This is so, I'm so depressed and disappointed with my reading and this thing. He says, no, don't worry, Mataji, you will get it. Today, your class, that, that one moment, something, I think that, I have to keep on trying.
Yeah.
Then I might get that one moment.
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
That's really, it answered my feeling, my frustration.
Krishna
I really
uses...
was feeling those 2 chapters. I'm not able to get anything. That Mahatattva and all, it's too high for me. I couldn't go that further, So I really thank you very much, Mataji. And then let's, like you said, if we are doing all the time chanting or anything, at the end of our life, that one moment is very valuable. If I cannot say that also, Krishna will help.
Yes, certainly.
That's all I am having that hope.
Jai. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Sonia Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
I'm just trying to understand the word liberation here. So this the liberation here the King Khatwanga achieved is out of the material desires is, or it is kind of prema to the Krishna. It's like Bhagavad Prapti.
So when you say liberation, liberation means you will transcend the three modes of material nature. You are transcending the three modes of material nature. That is liberation. Now, liberation can mean one goes and merges into Brahman, or liberation can mean one goes to Paramatma, or liberation can mean one is entering into the planet of, one of the Vaikunthas or Krishna Loka. But of course, specifically when you say moksha, there are 5 types of moksha, 5 types of liberation are there. Sarupya, Samipya, Salokya, Sarshti, Sayujya, 5 types of liberation are there. So which one did Khatwanga Maharaj get, you are asking?
Mhm.
That is not said here, but that is not said here. If he was actually rendering pure devotional service, then he will go back to Krishna or Vaikuntha, whoever is his Ishtadev, which form of the Lord. I don't know exactly. If anyone else here knows what type of liberation Khatwanga Maharaj got, please, you can share it.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So it depends on the path that you have followed and your desire and the path that you follow. That's the result you get. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Sure. Thank you, Sonia Mataji. So any other comments? So we'll end the call here.
Thank
Shamguri
you.
Mataji. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Mother Arcanābhakti. Wonderful class.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wonderful class. Wonderful class.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.